Hello, gorgeous, and welcome to the Women on Top podcast. I'm your host, Valerie Lynn, and with over 15 years of business experience, I became truly passionate about finding ways to support and hear from way more women. And what we know to be true is that women thrive when they are in their favorite position, on top in business, in relationships, in personal growth, and on top in being real and authentic to who the hell they are. So I invite you to sit back and enjoy the Women on Top podcast. Well, welcome back to the Women on Top, friends. And I want to just say happy holidays to you and your family and happy new year. Happy 2026. I can't believe that here we are together. And isn't it great to be able to embrace this next new year? I have heard that this is the year of the horse, according to, I think, the Chinese astrology. And last year we were in the year of the snake, which is kind of all about shedding and new beginnings. And I feel like it was a little bit of a harder year for some of us. But hopefully we're going into year 2026 with some new creative energy, which apparently the horse is supposed to be this lighter energy. So I think a lot of us are looking forward to that. And there's just something magical about the beginning of a year, kind of a clean slate. There's, these dreams and opportunities that we want to explore. And so today I just felt like this was the right time to make a solo episode and really kind of talk about some of my own journey, but then share with you as well some important lessons about leading yourself first. And there's been a lot that I have gone through and a lot that I have learn for myself along this journey. So kind of the backstory is a few months before the layoff news, I was interviewing a writing coach for the podcast. She was talking about how when we write, we actually invite ourselves to the page. She was sharing about how we get really honest with ourselves on the page and that it's this place where there's no judgment. And as she was talking about this idea of, again, like inviting ourselves to the page, just that concept for me really clicked. I had heard of something called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, and it had really been calling to me for reasons I honestly can't name. I just remember I had heard of it. It was kind of embedded in my mind. But when I had this conversation with her, when she was speaking about that invitation to honesty and to really exploring the corners of ourselves, I knew I wanted to try The Artist's Way. I really wanted to see what it was all about. And the interesting part of it is I didn't even know that I was blocked. So not just creatively blocked, but I was blocked in certain ways from myself. And again, looking back, like I was pretty, I had a pretty high energy and pretty high frequency. It wasn't anything like that, but I really have learned now in doing this process how I really kind of was blocked in kind of knowing who I was underneath this title, underneath the performance and the productivity. And so once I got the layoff news, I immediately knew that I was going to have this big identity shift, even though I knew there was going to be aspects of it being hard. And I felt okay initially. I just had this, I was like, of course, there's going to be an identity shift. I've been there for 17 years. I've been there since I was 20 through these formative times. And I knew that even if I consciously felt good, that there were stories underneath it all about, again, performance and how my worth was being attached. And so The Artist's Way, if you've never heard of it or done it, it is a structured book that guides you over 12 weeks. Each week has a concept to explore and there's tasks to complete, but the foundation of it all is the morning pages. So it's 3 pages that you write longhand every single morning, and it's just stream of consciousness, whatever you want to write about. You can literally write about the paint color on the wall, or you could write about your emotional state. You can write about anything, just whatever comes out. And the other piece of this, The Artist's Way, the author, Julia Cameron, really shares this idea that we're all artists. So I don't want you to hear the title. Like the title feels misleading to me because it's not for the painters and the authors. Like it really is for anybody who's willing to explore this. Because at the end of the day, she makes a point that our artistic nature, our creativity, are like God given talents in each of us. And we each have this artist that kind of lives within us. So the first week that I tried it, these pages really felt like such a welcoming, like homecoming. I loved writing. I usually wrote about my emotional state, the fears, the grief sometimes. But the great thing is the pages don't judge. They don't offer solutions. They just hold it all for you. And as the weeks went on, the exercises that I also was participating in started realizing or revealing things to me that I kind of didn't expect. So part of it is you also take yourself out on these artist dates, which are really like solo outings that are just for fun, no productive purpose other than to get yourself out of the house, out of your routine, and go kind of do something different just for yourself. So I ended up going to the dollar store one day just to kind of see what I saw. And it just sounded like a fun, like I'll just wander the aisles of the dollar store. These artist dates get to be really simple. You could just go to a park that you've never been to, go for a walk that you've never been, around your neighborhood. But I went to the dollar store, and as I was wandering the aisles, I happened upon these puzzles. And I haven't done a puzzle since I don't even know how old. I had helped people with puzzles sometimes when I went to their houses or what have you, but I hadn't actually sat down and done a puzzle. I bought this puzzle on a whim. It was $1 after all. So, what could I lose? And I brought it home, and I kid you not, I think I had that thing done in 24 hours. Granted, it was only 500-piece puzzle, but still, I couldn't believe how much I got so engrossed in it, so into the process of doing this puzzle. And I also had this realization of when was the last time I had done something just for the sake of doing something, just for the sake that it was satisfying. I kind of began to remember this like young version of myself who was just unabashedly her in her youth and in her glory. The little Val who would cut out pictures from magazines and make collages and, have these like lemonade stand ideas with my neighbors. I feel like I had kind of forgotten that girl. I forgot that girl who did things just for the sake of doing them. But this practice has really reminded me to live life just for the sake of living life. Doing something just because it brings you some joy, doing something just because you're curious, just because you're alive and because you can. I think we could all do a little more life living just because. Throughout doing all of this as well, there were kind of like other sides of this, darker sides of this, and exploring yourself also means you maybe start doing what I do, which is exploring what is the purpose of my life. And as I started kind of imagining more of this and questioning it and really diving into the deeper foundations of this life and realizing I had so many dreams and so many ideas and so many aspirations, I also had this deeper realization that brought me some pretty deep like sadness, and then at the same time liberated me as well, which is just around the fact that we're all ultimately very fragile beings and that life is so delicate and fragile, but that our mind is not fragile. Our mind is constantly dreaming and wondering and researching and protecting and thinking, and it's this massive amazing thing that we get to live with. And at the same time, we will never and cannot possibly live the amount of lives, the amount of different identities that we wish we could. We simply have this one life. And as I sometimes imagine alternate lives, that was one of the exercises of the artist way, is to create like alternate lives for yourselves. What would you be? Would you be a jazz singer? Would you be a pilot? And it really is a exercise in creativity and just letting your mind wander a little bit. But it also helped me realize that I will basically, and we all will, I think, on some level, we're all going to get to the end of our life wondering about some of the things that we wish we could have created or identities that we wish we could have become. And I know this sounds depressing. And it, I guess it is in a way, but it also is liberating because it allows you to realize that you cannot do everything all at once, all right now, all in this one very, very short life. That can also be liberating. And the fact that maybe we get to dream so largely in our bodies that could leave us at any moment, that is a wild phenomenon. And maybe all of those dreams that we have are just proof of a life well lived. And it's not the accomplishment of every single dream that matters, but the audacity to dream them. So I started having those conversations more with myself about my end of life. And when I'm looking back at the end, what will have mattered? And none of it has to do with titles. None of it has to do with promotions. It all has to do with how present I was, how much I treated or how well I treated people, whether I was living in alignment with some of my values, and whether I honestly was letting myself dream and then having the audacity to pursue a few of those dreams. And, there have been moments through all of this as well where I questioned everything. A lot of this sounds really upbeat and I want it to, but I also think that when you're going through transition and transformation, part of getting to the deeper meaning that's on the other side of that is going through darkness. And I think often we just push it away. We don't want to hear about the darkness. We don't even want to look at it or confront it. We just want to get through it as fast as possible and not tell anybody about it and just, get to the other side as quickly as we can. But some of the magic actually lives in the dark moments. And I definitely have had some of those where there's a lot of sadness and fear and questioning. And, I think that just needs to be, I've learned, I guess, that it's, again, it's part of the process and that it's not just about getting through it so quickly, but it really is about getting to realize that we are going to go through those times, and those times can be the biggest teacher for us. The darkness can be a mirror, and it can also be a motivator sometimes, truly. It's not a sign that you're broken or failing. And I think that that's something else our society tells us, is that if you're going through a hard time or sadness or questioning, there's something wrong with you. And that's not the message we should be sharing at all. It really actually is a guide. It's not that it can actually be a moment that guides you toward calmness, towards being centered, toward that deeper knowing of yourself. So I'm going to wrap all of this up by giving you 6 lessons about leadership through that story when you lose something that you feel like your worth is tied to. The first one is that you cannot lead others if you don't know yourself. For a long time, I've led different bodies of work and teams and projects, but I didn't know some of these aspects of myself. I knew, the version of me that showed up in the office, and I knew my values, but there were parts of me that I didn't know. And I feel like we can only be as effective as we are at leading ourselves. So you can lead others to the level that you are leading you. And if we can continue to explore new layers of that, then there's magic in that. The second lesson is that identity beyond title is where the real work lies. So when you've been somewhere for a really long time, or you've, worked really hard to be in a relationship and that fizzles away, your identity ends up tangled up in it. Our unconscious mind just automatically is putting these stories together and tying our worth and our rhythms and who we tell ourselves we are around that thing. Cutting the cords are painful. It's a painful process, and it's supposed to be, but it's also the most important work that you'll ever do. So if your sense of self is living in something that you're shedding right now, you're in a process of restructuring your own self in your own life. And the work is really finding that self that exists underneath it all, underneath all of these layers. That self that was there before the title will still be there after. That self that was there before the relationship or before the creation of your business, that self is still there. And that self is worthy of doing things and living life just because. Just because. So invite her back or invite him back and notice how you start to feel differently. The third lesson is that the best leaders know how to return home to themselves. I used to think that leadership was being confident, knowing the answers, and never letting, others see you sweat. Now I think that leadership is knowing how to return home to you when you get lost, because you will get lost. You will have days where the voice tells you that you're not good enough. You will have moments where you forget what matters. You will have seasons where you can't see the path. You feel so in a fog. And the question is, do you have something that brings you back or can hold you in that space? For me, it's writing, it's the pages. And for you, it might be meditation or running or therapy or prayer or gardening. The fourth lesson is that I believe in contentedness over happiness. I've shifted away from words like happy or joy as indicators of success for me, because for me, they feel like too much to reach for sometimes. I think that happiness and joy are byproducts of how well and how aligned we're living our life. But I've actually started prioritizing something that feels more in reach for me, and that is contentedness and gratitude. Those feel easier to grasp. They're more honest. They're more sustainable. They are centering. Contentedness isn't settling. It's not giving up on ambitions. It's actually just saying, I can be at peace with this right now, while I know I'm also moving toward something else. I can honor this moment, this season, this version of myself, even if it's not the top highlight reel. I think in a world that tells us to hustle harder and achieve more and never stop climbing, I think contentedness might be a radical stance. And it might be the best thing for your nervous system right now, too. So if you're chasing things like happiness and joy and you feel like that's a little out of reach to chase consistently, maybe come back to just reaching for gratitude or being content. The fifth lesson is that honestly, we are all artists and life is meant to be lived just because. I hope you listen to this and you think of ways that you can get out and maybe do something different or try something different or read a magazine just because, or go to a music store and just walk around and just see what records are there just because you feel like it. Maybe you don't have to buy anything, but you just decide to do it just to try something different. I think we need to give ourselves the permission a little more often and create the space to live life just for the sake of living life, just for the sake that we are alive right now because we can. And then the sixth and final message that I want to liberate you from thinking that you have to do so much and judging yourself against it is that we are fragile beings with infinite dreams. And that is beautiful. We're fragile. Life is so fragile and our bodies are ultimately fragile. But our minds are this huge, amazing machine, and they dream and they wonder and they imagine and they create and they have identities of things that will never become and creations that we'll never get to. And that's okay. We only have this one finite life to honor. We just have to be audacious enough to really dream and wonder and ask ourselves, what if? And throughout all of that dreaming, that gets to be the proof that we are a life well lived. I want to wrap this all up by saying, when I look back over these pages, I really see so many patterns. Like when I've read back through my journals, there's this fear that comes up again and again. There's this gratitude that simultaneously like anchors me at the same time. There's these small moments of beauty and abundance, and things that I would have missed if I wasn't paying attention. And there's the dreams I just let myself dream just because. And then there's this message from my wiser, older self that constantly says, it is all going to work out. And I think this is the same for you. It will all work out. And as you step into the new year with this like renewed vision and plans that you're creating, I hope that you hear that message. Trust the journey. If you're in transition or transformation of any kind and you feel like you've lost some version of yourself, that darkness is okay. Please don't push it away, because once you can be in that space without running from it, something new will get to be reborn. A truer version of yourself will get to be seen, and a kinder leadership that doesn't need a title or proving its worth will be shown. That version is all waiting for you on the other side. I want to just remind you that you are enough, that you are fragile and you are magnificent, that you are allowed to dream infinite lives into this one finite body. You are allowed to do all of that just because you're human. I want to wish you a very happy new year wherever you are. And I hope that this moment of just sharing where I'm at honestly with you, that it resonated with you, and that maybe you can take something from this and create some of those goals or some of whatever's next for you with a different kind of intention, and really come home to yourself, because you deserve that. And I am just so grateful that you're here. Thank you so much for listening to this episode today. Thank you for letting me be in your ears. And man, I just appreciate the support and the love that you have shown me and that you have shown to this podcast. And for that, I am infinitely grateful for you. Happy 2026, and I can't wait to talk with you again soon. Thank you for tuning into the show today. And before you go, I just have one quick favor to ask of you. There is a really simple way that you can help support me and help support this show, and that is to hit that follow button on whatever app you're listening to the show on. I'm trying really hard to level up the content and deliver unique value and amazing guests, and just hitting that follow button is the magic that will help continue to empower that. And remember that the world deserves to hear your voice and your stories, and you deserve a place at the top.